Hello, welcome to another episode of Executive Suite. I'm your host, Thomas Braun, and today we have with us Richard Song, the CEO and co-founder of Ravana. Richard, you're in a very interesting space at the crossroads of fintech and artificial intelligence. Can you please tell us about your company?
Be happy to. Thanks for having me. Ravana is an AI powered platform that streamlines private equity due diligence. So it makes it faster for investors to discover insights, to find answers during their diligence process. So, for those of you who are kind of new to private equity, what this looks like is due diligence is a 1 to 2 month period of time where the investors are receiving a lot of information from the company that they're interested in acquiring, and they have to go through that information and really dig through it, parse through it, analyze it, analyze the data, spot any potential risks to the investment. And it's a very intense period of time, and so the associates on the team, the VPs, will be working 80 to 90 hours a week during this period. So what we do is we've built an AI that streamlines this process where investors can upload that data room to Ravana, and we're helping them review the data room. We're helping them analyze documents. We're also streamlining some of the process oriented workflows like diligence tracking, for example, that can be quite tedious and is still done in Excel today. And really, my background is that I was a private equity associate at Bain Capital. So I lived and breathed a lot of these pain points and workflows day in, day out. And so we took that experience and realized that AI, with how it's developing, really presents a great opportunity to streamline that process.
So, how does it work? Is you have like a dashboard on your computer and you just start uploading documents or what?
Yeah, so it's a web-based platform. So you can access it through, your Google Chrome, for example. And yeah, so it syncs with your shared drive, your file system, and you can upload files and folders to Ravana.
Okay. So how does that work when a target company has a data room?
Yeah, so the company has a data room. They are probably sending that through some sort of VDR, like a data site or an Intralinks, as an example. So typically, what investors will do and what their current workflow looks like is they're going to bulk download everything into their local computer, into their company's computer system. And the reason for that is because information in the VDR is meant to be ephemeral, and it can change, right? Files can be deleted or added. And so it's very important for the investor to maintain their own record of the documents and download all of that. So once they've downloaded that, then they can very easily upload that data to Ravana, and they can continue to upload new versions of the data into Ravana. And we always will be able to maintain the most up-to-date version of the data room on our platform. And we also help detect, new files that are added, files that were deleted, really to help keep the investor organized as they're going through this process.
So, did I understand you correctly? Like the software is actually going to check the data room to make sure that if changes are made, that your documents are updated.
Yeah, so that's kind of the long term is a direct kind of connection with the sell side VDR. Today, it's based on the user uploading those documents to Ravana.
Right. Okay. So the target company signs like an NDA or something with the PE fund, and so the PE fund can download all of that documentation. Can you give me an idea of how much documentation we're talking about? Like, how would you measure it?
Yeah, so the way to think about it is, the amount of data in the data room is usually on the order of like 1 gigabyte. Sometimes it can be less than that, uh, but our capability to handle large volumes of data, it extends beyond that range. So we can handle, up to like 10 gigabytes, 15 gigabytes of data. It's really kind of unbounded on our end, from a technical standpoint. And the reason for that is we've built a very highly engineered infrastructure that handles the upload, the processing, and the parsing of all of that data when it is uploaded to Ravana.
Okay. So are we talking about the size of M&A deals that are on the higher end?
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Okay, so is it by high end, how would you define that? Like over $500 million, a billion?
Yeah, over 500 it could be, tens of billions of dollars in enterprise value, right?
Mhm. So your customer, your ideal customer is a company like Goldman Sachs or some Bain Capital. Can you give
Yeah,
me
so
some
Bain
examples?
Capital, yeah, so our customer target base is on the sorry, on the buy side.
Mhm.
So it'd be like private equity firms, late stage growth equity firms that are involved in rigorous due diligence. So this can range from anywhere from like a small independent sponsor firm to a mega fund like a Blackstone, for example, that's evaluating deals that are much more complex. But from a technical standpoint, we have the capability to address, that full spectrum. And so it really is kind of a focus on just the broad private equity space.
Right. Because I think even if you are doing like small or mid-sized deals, those smaller institutions or family offices, they don't have the staff. So they need the AI just as much as Bain Capital
Exactly.
or
Yep.
Morgan Stanley or whoever, right? So, yeah, I think investment banking could use this too, because if a company is going to do an IPO, then the underwriter has to do all this due diligence as well. So,
Yeah,
have you looked at that?
absolutely. That's another kind of customer segment that I think our product would be very well suited for. And even in a sell side process, it's quite valuable to be able to anticipate how the buyer will analyze the information in the data room. And oftentimes in the due diligence process, the buyers will be asking the sell side and the investment bank specific questions about the information in the data room. And this can be, very time consuming to address, especially if you're in an active process involving, anywhere from like 5 to 10 potential, buyers that are all sending you questions, right? So the ability to use AI to sift through that vast amount of information to be able to address those questions quickly, absolutely is a functionality that would be useful on the sell side as well.
Right. Okay. So, wow. So, do you think this is something that M&A advisors need to know about?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of when we talk about the sell side, right? That encompasses M&A advisors. It encompasses the more bulge bracket institutions like a Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan, anywhere down to like a like a smaller advisory firm. So all of these kinds of businesses that are involved in M&A transactions and corporate transactions in general, that's something that I think, would be quite relevant for Ravana.
Yeah. Well, even law firms, because a lot of times those other firms they'll just turn around and they'll say to the law firm, "Okay, go do due diligence on this company." And they make the company pay for it. So they go to the most expensive law firm in town. Um, now, one of the other things I was wondering about is does Ravana have sort of like pre-loaded checklists? Is it making sure that you are checking off all of the boxes, that you have all of the different documents, and does it warn people if you're missing something?
Yeah, so that's speaking directly to one of the features that we have, which is kind of a diligence request list feature. So typically in an M&A transaction, there will be a pretty extensive diligence requests tracker that basically lists out like a set of documents that the buyer's expecting to receive from the data room. And we have a standard template version of that in Ravana, but we also enable the user to upload their own custom tracker. And what Ravana does is it goes through each of those requests in parallel and sifts through the data room to identify, okay, what are the relevant documents? Is this request completed or incomplete based on, what's in the data room today? What are the findings in regards to this request item? And so it provides the investor, instead of having to dig through all those 100 request list items manually, right? It gives them a instantaneous snapshot of, all right, what do I have? What do I need to ask for from the sell side, and what's missing, and what are the potential risks in each of these request items?
Okay, so does the AI generate comments?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It
Okay. So you can then send over your list of questions that were generated by the AI.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's fully kind of exportable into Excel, so really facilitates easy back and forth between the buy side and the sell side on those request items.
Yeah. So what do you think about if somebody then takes those questions and comments and they load it into an AI program and ask for the answers, and then they get a list of answers and they send that back to you?
Yeah. Well, I do think that that's a very interesting point. I think that that is where the industry is moving in terms of, I think, both the sell side and the buy side are going to have AI, and the lawyers and the other third party advisors. I think it's going to be a tool just like how everybody has access to Microsoft Excel, right? I think it's going to be one of those tools that becomes deeply entrenched within our working environment, right, and into our workflow. But I think it's a good thing because it increases collaboration, increases efficiency. The most annoying thing in a sell side process is when you email the you're an investor, you email the investment bank, the M&A advisor for some piece of information, and their analysts are overworked, so they're not getting back to you until, maybe 12 hours later, or maybe 24 hours later, or maybe it slips through the cracks. And so the ability to just quickly kind of get the 80/20 answer from I think will, definitely provide a lot of efficiency and drive increased speed in this process. But I think as long as it's grounded in the truth of what's in the data and it's verifiable, it's accurate, and that's the type of product that we're building. I think that this will be kind of deeply embedded throughout the ecosystem.
Interesting. So is this going to mean that the investment banks and these PE funds, will they need less staff overall, or will they increase their deal flow?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? And very relevant as, the broader economy is thinking through what AI means for their workforce. I what my belief is that it will not lead to a reduction in the size of the workforce, but I think what people will spend time doing and where kind of the bottleneck moves in the process will shift. So it'll shift from some of the low sort of low level work and manual grunt work to really, judgment based work, right? Which is really what draws people, smart people and hardworking people who graduate college and go into the industry in the first place. And there's this term called the Jevons paradox, which is actually that as you make a resource cheaper to consume, the consumption actually increases. So we could see as a result of AI. An increase in M&A activity, an increase in deal volume, at least an increase in the speed at which deals are done. I think that could be quite exciting for the industry. But I do think that the nature of the role will change, especially at the junior level. It'll be less about kind of managing the grunt work and more about applying your judgment, really, your differentiated perspective on the world. And I think that that's quite exciting, right? To be able to engage at the heart of investing at an earlier stage than you typically would be able to do before you
Right.
have access to these tools.
So is your program dedicated to just this document management feature, or can users ask it questions like Chat GPT?
Yeah. So to fully clarify, this is a fully AI native platform. So it enables users to ask questions just like ChatGPT, except we're able to provide answers over a much larger base of information. Right. A common issue with ChatGPT is you upload 10 files to it and it just breaks down. It starts to lose accuracy and the citations are not quite as good. With Ravana, we're providing the ability to chat across, the whole data room, gigabytes of data, with pinpoint accuracy, citations that bring you back to the primary source on every fact and detail that we're generating. We
I
also
see.
have, prompts that are auto generated, so that it provides people with a high level overview before they have to even like prompt with the AI. I think that's also part of where the future of AI is headed is the ability to present the user with information rather than having the user to ask for it.
Interesting. So you've got what are really sort of enterprise level features there. I was looking at some of the monthly costs for things like enterprise level Chat GPT or Grok. I think they're around $400 a month. Does that sound right?
$400 a month for Grok at the enterprise level. Yeah, it
Or is
sounds.
that like per user or per company? I can't remember.
I
But
know. Yeah, I know. Like Claude, for example, I believe they have like a $200 per user per month offering. That's kind of near the high end.
mhm.
Same, I think, similar with ChatGPT. So that sounds right in the ballpark.
Yeah, so and these lower priced ones that are like 10 or I mean 20 or $30 a month,
Right.
they have that problem you were alluding to where you upload a certain number of documents and you ask by the time you get to your 10th question, it starts to run out of steam basically. It starts to
Right.
hallucinate and just can't answer the question or whatever. You got to start a new chat, upload your document again and go back to what you were doing, and then it doesn't benefit from all the last 10 answers that were already generated.
Right.
So you're saying that with yours, you can just keep going and going and going, that won't happen?
Yeah, so I think, the main benefit of Ravana is you're able to have accurate responses over a vast amount of data where you don't even know as the human like which of these documents contains the answer that I'm looking for. And that's a massive value that we're bringing to the table with Ravana is like you can just dump the whole data room into Ravana and Ravana sifts through it like a human would and
Mhm.
finds, what are the right folders, what are the right. So I think that absolutely is critical. And to your second point about kind of remembering the context of conversations, I would say that's kind of a broader point about can AI handle scale? Does it scale well, right? If you ask it to analyze 10 documents, is it actually reading through 10 documents or is it just reading through the first document and maybe summarizing the rest of the 9 documents, right? So with Ravana, we've built our platform to be able to work at scale accurately across, all 10 documents, all 20 documents, all 100 documents. And there's, specific techniques that we're using and kind of workflows and user interface that we're using to enable that. But that brings to the table a much deeper analytical capability than what you'd have from ChatGPT.
Yeah. So would this allow you, like in a normal circumstance, you might just be looking at their audited financial statements. Let's say it's a 20-year-old company and they have audited financial statements for the last 20 years. with AI, do you think due diligence will then go further and people say, well, now I can look at your bookkeeping records for the last 20 years.
Exactly.
Hand over your QuickBooks for the last 20 years. And then you can sit there and say to AI, so is there anything I should be concerned about? Like, are there any, anything suspicious? Right. And the AI can presumably start looking through all of this stuff. Do you think that'll happen?
Yeah, I think M&A will continue to get more sophisticated, right? In terms of the amount of information that's being processed. And like you said, like some of that might be in the form of more detailed financials. That might also be in the form of diligence that is not in the data room, and maybe it's doing a few extra expert calls to really learn about the industry from an outside perspective. Right? It might be kind of thinking through questions about the industry's growth. A lot of topics that, really deal teams today are very time constrained. They're human capital constrained, right? And so any efficiency they can gain in analyzing the information that is presented enables them to then go deeper, right? And that's where really like alpha comes from. And I think that will become, the standard sort of way of investing across the industry.
Okay. So your AI is also going out into the world and able to read all the documents that are available to
Yeah, so
that
we are
like regular
integrating
AI.
with yeah, that's something that we're currently developing, at the moment, and, the ability to integrate with, third parties, trusted, verified sources of data like expert call libraries, private company information from sources like PitchBook or Crunchbase, financial information which, is public, which we already have in our system from SEC filings, earnings transcripts, and of course, the web. Really presenting that kind of holistic view that blends the proprietary confidential data room information that is
Hmm.
highly specific to the target with the broader space in which the target operates. I think that will be the future of due diligence, and that's where our platform will evolve.
Yeah, because each company is in a different sector potentially. So unless you're just doing the same sector over and over again, in which case you just use the same checklist over and over again. But if you have all these different sectors, all of a sudden it's like, oh, now I have to become an expert in the airline industry, or oh, look, it's a hydroelectric dam, and you want to know, okay, well, what are the things that are specific to that specific industry? But better yet, I would want to be able to score the deal, and you could ask the AI to develop some sort of a score for the quality of the due diligence, how reliable it is,
Yeah,
analyze these
absolutely.
things like the TAM and the SAM, and decide whether or not you want to go through with it, because they would have to make a comparison with other deals that are disclosed in Crunchbase or these other
Yeah,
databases you're
absolutely.
talking about.
Absolutely. And look, I think there's a pretty exciting world that is going to be created by the use of these tools in due diligence. I think, there's what we're working on already is like being able to mine, all the data that a firm has accumulated on past, deals that may or may not have transacted, but it's valuable information that serves as a benchmark on future deals, right? And portfolio companies. So all of the rich kind of institutional knowledge that a firm generates over time is a source of competitive advantage, and is something that AI really helps to really bring forward in an accessible way. And I think, look, there's a spectrum in terms of where we are today with how people are using AI, especially in the professional sense. So I think, on one end of the spectrum, it's very human in the loop. It's, the human has a specific workflow that they're, currently doing, and it's how can AI streamline that specific workflow today? And then I think over time, it's, you know, trusting the AI, and as AI gets better, to do increasingly open-ended tasks, right? And being able to just say, "Hey, these are here are the risks. Here's your deal thesis. but here's what I found from the data room that doesn't quite line up, or here's the confirmatory evidence that I found. Here's what you should look into, and almost kind of serve as a orchestrator for the deal. I think, maybe we're not there yet today, but I think that is a future state that we are advancing towards.
Right, and you wanna just get to the right price as well. It's not necessarily to kill the deal, to look for things that are wrong. You just wanna make sure that you are aware of what the value is. So, to get to that, price discovery process, I suppose, doing this due diligence is part of the process, I think. Um, Now, what about some of these big companies like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley or whatever, are they working on their own AI? Like, are they so big that they make their own in-house, or are they still going to be looking to, you know, just like license this kind of software?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think undeniably these massive institutions have a lot of proprietary data that is valuable and very very useful to be able to unlock that through AI. I think some of these big firms have made initial attempts to develop their own AI. Um, without going too deep into the specifics, right? A lot of these were just kind of isolated instances of ChatGPT in the early days, and from an end user perspective, they performed less good than just your regular ChatGPT. So I think at this point in time, a lot of those firms have probably realized that, look, like, in order to actually build a good product, that involves a level of focus on, building the right features, on the user experience, but also on, the back end of actually, the infrastructure of how the AI works. And the technology is just advancing super quickly. So, for firms that are their bread and butter is as in whether it's investing or banking or just being a financial institution, it can be very challenging to keep up with what's the latest and actually develop the product that is best in class. So I think what you're seeing now is those institutions realizing, okay, it probably makes a lot more sense for us to kind of use a sort of AI native, best in class solution, just like they do with every other you know software that they currently use, whether that's Bloomberg, whether that's Cap IQ, right? Goldman Sachs doesn't necessarily, they do develop some software internally, but for a lot of those core pieces of data and workflow that their workforce uses, it is heavily reliant on kind of external data. And I think AI will be the same.
Interesting. Okay. Well, this is all very important stuff for people to know. And we've got a series on M&A here on the Executive Suite podcast. So you'll be added to that on the playlist for M&A. I think this is probably not a bad place for us to wrap things up. Do you have any closing thoughts that you wanted to share with us before we say goodbye?
Yeah, no, Thomas, it was great chatting with you, and love having the conversation. Yeah, would love to chat with folks who are in private equity who want to streamline their due diligence. Right, our website is ravana.ai, and we're always happy to have conversations with folks.
Okay. Well, that sounds great. Well, everyone who's been watching, thank you very much for being with us. And if you like this kind of content, please consider liking and subscribing this video, and we will see you later. Bye for now.